yes, I did find his existence annoying, and the amount of time we spent with that white woman's dog pooping on his lawn was like, okay,
It was like a minute.
we spent too much time. We just spent too much time with him.
You're
I feel
they
like
could have been talking about revolution in that minute.
no.
And what's up, y'all? Welcome to another episode of the For All Nerds show. It's your boy, DJ Ben-Amin, a.k.a. Stains World, Party Time, a.k.a. Obadiah was a bullfrog, a.k.a. Stay Woke Kang, a.k.a. Iron, Shoulders, Chest, Pants, Shoes. Here on the spaceship. Like I said, it's either the best or the worst AKAs here tonight. And laughing at me, I'm joined by our social media maestro themselves. Please introduce yourselves for the crowd.
Hey everybody, it's Joel, the ForAllNerds social media manager, aka Ezekiel Stanky Leg, aka Gaze in the Hood.
I'm at a loss. Ezekiel Stanky Leg is, that's all right. Wow. All right. And we are also with a very special guest tonight, Jay of Tea with Queen and Jay. Please introduce yourself.
Hey y'all, it's Janicia, aka Jay from Tea with Queen and Jay podcast, aka your favorite womanist race nerd, aka Wondering Woman, aka Storm every damn day, aka one of them, they, them niggas. Thanks for having me.
You are very welcome, and thank you to everybody for joining us today, tonight, whatever time you're watching this episode. Make sure you hit that like and that subscribe button on YouTube if you are peeping this, our beautiful melanated faces right here. Please do so, because we are here to talk about a very melanated show and something a lot of us have been waiting a long time for and wondering why Marvel was not doing their damnedest to promote it. IronHeart is finally out. If you have not seen the first 3 episodes, I highly encourage you to pause this episode right here. Go watch them, because we're going to be talking about everything. It's going to be pure spoilers from here on out. So please make sure you've seen all 3 episodes that are now out on Disney Plus before we go any further. So first off, Jay, what did you think of it? Overall.
Me first?
Yeah, I want to. Let's get it started.
All right. Okay. All right. So I came into it with a chip on my shoulder because it hasn't been enough ad attention. It hasn't been enough marketing. Okay. We was all hyped for this after Wakanda Forever. We was hyped. I was excited. And so I came in with a chip on my shoulder, ready to fucking love it, ready to rant and rave about it, ready to promote it. And I watched it, and it was a lot of good stuff in there. And then it was a lot of stuff in there where I was like, oh, okay. That it was like, okay, I don't know. I'm sure there's a bunch of different reasons why it was not marketed and promoted in the way that we have seen other Marvel properties and shows promoted in the past. So there's that. I'm sure there's a little bit of that racism mixed up in there.
I mean, that's always there.
That's a given.
Yeah, that's a given.
Also, it might be some other stuff. It might be some other, I don't know. It might be some other stuff in there. Other than
racism?
Other than racism.
Other than sexism?
Other than, well, you know what? That's a sleeper pill. So I don't know.
I mean, they were both involved. They
were both heavily involved. That's the other thing that makes this tricky. Why I'm like, you started off with me. I didn't even get to think about what my public facing response was going to be to this.
I mean, well, okay, well, let's do it the easy way. What were some of the things that you enjoyed about it? We always like to start off with the good first.
Thank you.
We always like to know that first.
Thank you. I'm sweating.
Even when I've hated some things.
Yeah, I didn't hate it. And I also want to say, as a black girl, as a genderqueer black girl, right? Black girl being my connection, very much connection to this show. I am being amongst us, right? Amongst us as people of color here, I am being celebratory of the show, but I feel so like I was looking forward to it so much. and feeling very protective of it. And also because of my connection to it as a Black girl, feeling perhaps more critical of this show than I would be of other shows. And so I want to be transparent about that.
Yep.
And so I looked at this close in a way that lots of other properties I wouldn't look that close. It's like, oh, this is fun, that's fun, this is fun, that's fun. But this, I was really kind of looking at every single thing. But anyway, shit that I loved.
First 3 episodes, what did you?
I love the relationship between Riri and Natalie. I love like that it's clear that she had such a wonderful friendship with Natalie. I love all of those like Black girl moments. I love their kind of back and forth. All of the dynamics between Riri and Natalie. I love seeing a Black girl AI. I love that dynamic very much. I thought that was really cool. Obviously, I love every time that Riri is in the suit. I love that she's smart. I love that she's swaggy. I love that we're seeing Cree Summer and not just hearing her voice in a thing. I love that we're seeing her more lately. I love that she's in this. I love that she obviously brought her own clothes, okay, and did her own wardrobe.
I feel like she does that every time.
Yeah,
she does that. She did that on Blackish, I feel.
Yeah, they don't make hats of that quality for costume. Okay, those are her personal hats from her
Abbott.
Personal home. Yeah,
on Abbott. Yeah.
Yes, those are her hats from her. When I saw her wardrobe in this show, I was like, okay, these are her personal clothes. Okay, they don't come this fly in costume. They just not for this show. They just wouldn't. So I love that. I loved, what else did I love? I love that it wasn't a lot of white folks in this show. I love that. I loved the possibility, and I don't know that we fully got this, but I love the possibility of conflicts that are like, that live and exist in the gray. And I don't want to, start getting into like, what I didn't like or whatever, but I loved that there seemed to be this positioning of a dilemma that was greater than like, what is actually good versus evil. Like sometimes you need to steal from a corporation that's gentrifying your community. You know what I'm saying? Like, so I liked the premise, the setup of that. And I was very obsessed with Clown. Was that her name? The pyrotechnics person. She's my favorite character in the whole show. Period.
Why?
I think the actor, she was great at that. It felt natural. She felt like a real Black girl that I would meet somewhere, and it didn't feel like hey, you're Black, I'm Black, we're Black, we're acting Black in a show where I've seen that before. I've seen that before, and she felt like somebody I could really meet somewhere. You know what I'm saying? She felt like the stuff that she was saying. Because some of it, yes, the show was very Black, but there were moments where I could hear the script, where I could feel somebody putting in something that sounds Black that we would connect with or whatever. There were like some moments where I could feel it, and they were a little bit cringe, but like, okay. Yes. And with her, a lot of her, she came so natural. I don't know if it was just her acting. I don't know, but she felt like a real person that I would know. Like, she was fantastic. So I really enjoyed her character, and I really enjoyed her code. She seemed to have an ethical code that I could feel and touch or whatever. But I'm trying to think of that might be later in the
it's not.
That might be past episode 3 when that shows up.
It might be, because in this part she says she's gonna open a school and use it as a front for bomb making.
No, well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that shit.
The code is low.
We'll get to that shit. Right. But yeah, her code is revealed later on, I think.
I don't.
All of their, what everybody said they was going to do with their money was a joke, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah, she comes off as a Black Harley Quinn in terms of like, at least the terms of level of sanity, I would say. I
didn't get that. I heard you say that before, and I didn't feel
right. Enamored with blowing things up.
Yes. What else is wrong with her though?
All right, Joel, what did you like about the show?
We all have friends who have one thing about them that's a little bit weird. So she likes blowing stuff up. But
I like to see fire sometimes.
I used to, enjoy dating women like, of her ilk, I would say. And, you grow up and no.
The only thing about her bad, I'm not going to let you do this to her, is that she uses her ability to set fires for bad things. Everything else about her was level.
There's very rare
they was all doing bad stuff. There are people who set fires for a living. There are people who work in movies. There are people who do all types of stuff who set fires on purpose. There are people who blow up structures to build new structures. She could do this as a job.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, she could have been a great
got tapped. She just got tapped by somebody to do this. Outside of her blowing up shit, there's nothing else about her personality that seemed off. And I don't know what this says about me, because I'm ready to go to coffee. Like, where do we kick it? It's me and her. We're ride or die. Okay? That's my friend at the job. That's my homegirl. What? Are you kidding me? We get lunch together. We talk about our personal business at work. Anyway.
All right. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we have completely different reactions to this woman. Yeah. I'm like, back in the day, it would have been yes. Now it's no.
I think that you need to. We'll get back to her, because I need you to show me more evidence that something's wrong with her besides that. Yeah,
good time. Like, I go to brunch with her.
Yeah,
and at the day parties.
Okay, there we go. Day parties, right? You're right. See, smart, intelligent, and then we go our separate ways at night.
Well, because she just got work to do.
Yeah, she going to burn some shit. That's
right. But nothing else is wrong with her. Okay, Joel.
Yes.
Okay. What I liked about IronHeart. One thing I really liked, and I feel like you get more into it in the second 3 episodes, but I like that we're bringing back more magic into the MCU. Like, I like magic stuff, and I've always kind of felt that Marvel wasn't really great at doing magic for me, especially reading the comics. But lately with Agatha and now this, it's exciting to see how they're making magic more interesting. But again, you'll see that more later. But I also really I like the characterization of Riri. And I think for me it's because I've read her comics, the Bendis comics and Eve Ewing's, and I feel I just get a lot of the essence of who she is, especially in Eve Ewing's run of her, currently. She's not she doesn't like people. And you see that in the comics. She cares about the people she fucks with, but she's about she's very goal oriented, and she she loves her science, and I like that we get that kind of version of her in the MCU. She has her friends, but she's not out to make friends with everybody. I'd liked I'm really glad to see Shea Coulee in this role. I've been a big fan of Shea since Drag Race, and I like it and love it that we have again the little sprinkling of the LGBTQ in there. There were some subtle things that I really appreciated, like the fact that they just said their pronouns and it wasn't us. But again, with all Marvel things, it's it's there, but it's not gonna go really into it. And yeah, I do think the other thing that I really love about this show is its exploration of grief. And I think it's really cool too of how we saw Riri in Wakanda Forever, which is another good expression of how people grieve. And so this feels like a cousin of Wakanda Forever in the way that it talks about, okay, this is how one person experienced grief, but this is how a different person experiences grief. And I'll talk more about that later. But yeah, I enjoyed seeing that as just another way of this is how people react when they lose someone.
That was one of my favorite parts of it, was the exploration of grief. I thought one of my favorite lines from the show, or moments even, was when Riri's mother confronts Riri about Natalie, when finding out that she has this thing, Natalie, and she's like, when are you gonna tell me about? First, I just love that she says, when are you gonna tell me about your little friend? And you think that she's talking about Xavier, of course, or Riri definitely thinks she's talking about Xavier. We know that she's talking about Natalie. But I just love that moment. And then immediately her mother's reaction is, can you make one of Gary? And that just broke my heart. And it's this whole thing that it sent me on where I had to think about it. Like, would I want an AI version of someone that has passed away in my life? And I don't know. It's really that's a very ill philosophical question, I think. And I think the show, like you said, like we all know it's Marvel, so they're not gonna go too deep on these things, for anything. Like they're not gonna go too deep on race, they're not gonna go too deep on gender, they're not gonna go too deep on death. They've already done that, with Wakanda Forever, like you said. But I just thought that was a very interesting question to ask. And just even if they just touch on it throughout the series, I think it's very dope. Like even the idea of Riri wanting to shut down her Natalie, and Natalie, of course, resisting it. But it's just more so because this is like not just an AI, but just an AI that represents someone that you knew and loved. So I really love that part about it.
Yeah, that was dope. The answer for me is yes. I would like an AI of my sister and my grandma and my other grandma. Yes.
Yeah.
It sounds like a bad idea. Yeah, I won't deny it's a bad idea. The answer for me is yes. We're doing it.
I'm still not sure. Like, my mom, my dad, I don't know. I have friends, my boy Kenny, Dallas Combat. I would definitely like a Dallas or Combat AI just for the world. I think the world needs that, yeah. But then it's like, man, that gets crowded, right? It's like, fam, like, death happens for a reason. The world would be crowded, bro. It'd be like,
what's tricky for me?
You would never have peace, dog. Like,
well, I don't know, because she put Natalie in the computer when she felt like it.
You would have to. That's what I'm saying. You'd have to put
that's what's tricky. It's like shit down. You have to, right? And then it seemed like there were times when Natalie was feeling kind of sentient, like kind of like like what is she a slave? Is that's
the thing? Yeah, that's the thing. Is all right? That's another thing. Is Natalie sentient?
Right.
Like, what is sentience?
Yeah.
Like these are all questions that the show's not asking, but then it is asking these things, and it's like, I don't know, like she has memories, she seems to have emotion.
Yeah.
But a lot of it seemed to come from Riri. So like,
yep.
Like I put this quote because I remember I recently watched Wakanda Forever because I knew IronHeart was coming out. I was like, oh, let me like revisit.
Man, I cannot. But yeah, go ahead.
And there's a part where Queen Ramonda is asking Shuri like, what construct does your mind make to like offer support or does it offer you pain? And I was like, well, literally, Riri made a construct of her mind. Like Natalie is AI that came from like her memories and basically like her image and idea of Natalie. And I think like for me, my answer is like, I do think in a way it could be helpful. Like recently, like you know this, Ben, but my grandma passed, and I think like the biggest thing. Thank you. The biggest thing I've been feeling with like my grief is like not being able to like tell her things, and so like I do think like it could be like a cathartic experience to be able to like tell this AI of like my lost loved one of like these are the things that I wanted to tell you, even though like they might not be that person. There's still that like that the action and going through the motion of being able to just talk to your loved one and say the things that you always wanted to say. And then like the thing with Natalie was because she's from Riri, it's going to respond to Riri how like she thinks Natalie would respond. And so I don't know whether that's good or bad because maybe the response isn't exactly what would happen, but I think just being able to have that experience might provide like some closure, especially for I think they said in the show like Riri never got a chance to say goodbye to them. Like she didn't really have that moment. We saw what happened in their death. Like there was no chance to like have a conversation with them. It just all happened so fast.
I mean, most people don't though, and that's something. And this is something I've been thinking about a lot lately, right? Bounty Killer, the dancehall artist, the legend, has a great one of my favorite songs by him. Is the chorus is "Before them seek God, them seek the devil," and it's been in my head a lot lately, and I think it relates to the show and also to technology and a lot of things people have been talking about lately. Like lately, a lot of things. There's this idea of the whole simulation theory that we live in a simulation that's created by a super advanced high power computer somewhere that's being run by aliens or who knows what. And, everything we know is just part of that. And that to me, and this like idea of, well, okay, I can have I get it. I get the idea of having an AI of someone I love or miss. But at the same time, it goes to that idea to me of before them seek God, them seek the devil, because it's like instead of seeking spirituality or the idea of, that death is just a part of life and that we have to move on and we still communicate with our ancestors and things of that nature, is like we'll get this solution to it. And then it goes with a lot of things, like with the whole reality simulation theory. It goes the same thing to me. It's like people will believe that before they believe that there's a God that created all of this. And I'm not even talking about in the traditional, white man, some dude in the clouds sitting up there doing things. I'm just talking about the fact that there's a universal energy and everything is part of that universal energy and things are all made of the same thing and it all operates on a
Rastafari.
Yeah, but it's also science. It's also very scientific. I look at science and all matter is made of the same, structures at the very lowest levels. So things of that nature.
What feels a little bit different to me with the Riri AI, Riri creating Natalie, is that she had the little toot-toots on her head. So it's, to me, the separation between like the soul, the mind, the spirit, it's a little bit more gray in this universe with the toot-toot than it would be if one of us, if we took if we had ChatGPT create an AI of my sister or whatever. It's just taking it's just taking our text messages. It's just taking whatever they find on the internet. In this universe, they're tapping into Riri's thoughts, her feelings, her soul. Like it feels, for me, a lot of that stuff feels mixed in and melded in. You know what I'm saying? So like, even when her mom is like, oh, can you make one of Gary? She could, to me, it sounded like, well, it was a mistake, but I felt like if she put her energy, if she put her mind to it, if she wanted to, she could. Is it a good idea? Probably not, but she could. But I would say, to me, in that universe, like everything that you were saying about, spirit and seeking God and this, that, or whatever, it feels a little bit different when the technology is more advanced and it is tapping into, mind, body, and spirit in a way that our real world ChatGPT is not,
Well, that's the question. Like, what happens when our real world ChatGPT does get, if it ever could get to that level? I don't think it can, but
they can't even draw fingers.
I know.
No, we do know. Yeah, they can't even draw freaking fingers. And if you're paying attention, you still know the difference between fucking real shit and AI.
What happens if it's doing off your brain?
It's not doing yet. That's not where we're at yet.
There's the, see now, but let's say 100 years humanity makes it and it's doing off your brain. It could be less.
Yeah.
So, and when that day happens, then, that's what I'm saying. Then is it spiritual or not then? Is it part of our, is it, that's the thing, because Natalie says, I remember things, but I have gaps in my memory. But that'd be the same as if I was alive. And that's true. I have mad, tons of gaps. But at the same time, is it Natalie or is it Riri? Because if she has gaps in her memory, does she only remembers when Riri was in the room? Or did she remember things when Riri wasn't in the room? Which, if she does, then that becomes, really creepy, honestly. Like that's when it becomes like, if she remembers anything when Riri wasn't in the room, how? That's when it becomes, well, I don't know. How real is this thing? Is this, do androids dream of electric sheep, Yeah.
So what did you like? Did you talk about Joe? You finished?
Yeah, I did.
All right. Ben, what did you like about the show? Okay, what did you enjoy?
All right. One, I very much enjoyed how black it was. Like, me and you were talking off the air about this, and I definitely say it feels like the after school special version of, Chicago. Like, it is not like, it's not some gritty one, which I don't need, but it's not even black or Chicago in the way that something I just finally, I know I'm dumb late. I'm like on the second season of Southside, and Southside is just incredibly black and incredibly Chicago. And some of my best friends from Howard are from Chicago. I was so hyped when they showed the museum. It's the Black Museum because I did a book reading there when I with my children's book, and so I'm like, yeah, that's the Black Museum in Chicago. Of course, they're there for the Ferris Bueller episode. So one, they haven't, but the other thing is this show is only 6 episodes long. And because of that, it's also got to deal with, that's the other thing that I always talk about and I always say in screenwriting, real estate, and what you have to deal with. And in this show, you have to deal with introducing Riri and her whole world of characters, which I thought they did very well as the antagonists and all the people who come along with that. I thought all of them were very well. I thought, Riri's family and her enemies are all very well developed, and the people around them, the neighborhood, etc., in the short time they have. Then you also have to move things along in the Marvel way, and lead into later things. And then you have to have action, adventure, and all these other things people expect from a superhero show. So it has a lot to do, in terms of versus something like a Hawkeye, which is white people. So I thought it did all of those things very well. I like the music, etc. I really like Ramos. I feel like I've become more of a fan of him as he's gotten older as an actor. And I really liked him in this role as the Hood. There's a lot of little things where it's like there are very much hinting at things to come. Like Joel said, we know there's magic involved. We know that his cape gets extremely hot. The Hood gets extremely hot. And there's a shot that I'm going to point out because I'm going to make another quick video about this. After Riri, I think this is after episode 2, after their second heist, after Riri, actually, it's their first heist. The first thing is just Riri busting through the elevator. But after the heist, after, they're doing the whole money, so it's actually beginning of episode 3 because they're doing the whole money shot and everything, and they're talking about the money. When she leaves the hideout, she's talking to Natalie, her AI, outside of it. And behind Riri is a whole line of posters that all say Faust. It looks like it's a poster for a play or something about Faust. And Faust is a German legend. That basically talks about, a dude who makes a deal with Mephistopheles. I never know how to pronounce a whole long name.
That's right.
Mephisto, basically. Makes a deal with the devil. And a Faustian bargain, a Faustian agreement comes from that. It's when someone knows that they're making a deal with the devil, basically. Like they know the consequences of it, but they make it anyway because they believe that whatever they're going to get out of it is worth whatever they're going to lose from it. And of course, in the end, it never is. And so that's not one of the things I loved about the show, but I just think one of the ill things about the show is that this show seems to be about a lot of people making these Faustian agreements or these Faustian bargains, because right now that like Natalie is arguing with her that she's making one right then. Like Natalie's telling her, you're out here being a common criminal, doing the things that you said you wouldn't do, that everyone, your, stepdad, Xavier down the line, is against, and you're out here doing it because you think the money is worth it because you can build your new suit. And that's something else that I really loved about the show is like Riri says that to Xavier, no one gives a damn about me until I make the suit. And so it's like she has to be what the white man is for anyone to recognize her. For this black woman to get recognized, she has to do things that the white man has done. And in particular, that Tony Stark has done. And Ezekiel calls her out for it. He says, you're coming in here with that iron energy. And it's like, I've talked about this so many times on the show, but Tony to me is a war criminal. He's a wild boy from the beginning of the MCU, pretty much up to the point he dies. Like people act like he goes on this crazy arc, but he pretty much stays the same dude. And then, flips over towards the last 2 movies when he finally recognizes, there's people outside of himself. And I feel like Riri, like you said, Joel, that's who she is in the comics. And I feel like she's Junior Tony, like, even though she's a black woman version of it, she still has that same super intelligence, and that might lead to a bit of a dispassionate version of looking at the rest of humanity. So I think they're hinting at that type of stuff, and I think she makes choices because of that type of mentality, and it's interesting to see.
So I agree, it was black, and I I don't think I've even ever been to Chicago.
Oh yeah.
But I grew up watching the classics like South Side, like The Bear, like The Chi. I grew up since I was a baby watching those shows. And so I know Chicago. So excluding season 1 of The Bear, which doesn't count in Chicago lore, I was hoping for a little bit more of Chicago flavor. And again, I say this as a person who has never been to Chicago.
I swear that I don't think The Bear ever gets Chicago to me.
No, yeah. I think it gets really
it's this white dude
or whatever.
who's barking on people, and that's about it.
Season after, so they got yelled at. They got yelled at for season 1, and then after that, they tried to be more Chicago. But I have watched every episode. I might be behind an episode, but I have watched every episode of The Chi, and they are very Chicago. And I can say this because I've never been. And so they are very clearly Chicago. South Side was very clearly Chicago, and I was I was expecting a little bit more. Let me also say this as a person who hasn't been a lot of places, right? I expected to feel like I was somewhere else. So I'll say that, right? Because I don't really know what the fuck Chicago was supposed to be, except for what I learned growing up as a baby watching The Chi and South Side, right? So I did expect to feel like I was in another city, and I didn't feel like that as much with this. And I hear what you're saying about they only had 6 episodes, but I just feel like that kind of stuff, it gets baked in, it gets baked in.
I mean, it was at the lake, like.
Okay.
I don't know,
there was a lot of like subtle call outs to Chicago. A lot of the actors are from Chicago. Like I know Shane is from Chicago. The one who plays Riri's stepdad is from Chicago.
Yes.
The soundtrack is full of
Chicago.
When I go to see Stop, I was like, I don't know who that is. Let me look that up. Chicago rapper. So I think that was helpful. Like,
right.
It was authentically Chicago, though you might not see it.
Okay, that's true.
Yeah. And they only had 6 episodes still.
They did.
Southside had 3 seasons.
That's true. And then so has The Chi has had a bunch of seasons.
Marvel. It's like that's the other thing. It's like it's gonna be Marvel first, so that's to be the main thing, and then all that other stuff is like the extra side thing. And that's why I always say it's like I'm happy they got as much of the side thing, and the soundtrack especially alone, because it's like house heavy, it's got modern and classic joints, and then new and old artists. I was really feeling that. The soundtrack, and it's subtle. It's not like where it's one of those shows where it's like, a person needs to relax and electric relaxation starts playing.
Right.
It's not that type of thing. So I thought the music was very well done.
Okay. Yeah. What's next? Where you want to go with this next? I have a list of shenanigans. What do you want to cover?
Chaos spaghetti.
Well, one last thing that I really liked was I thought it started off, it starts off very strong as a show in general. I thought the first episodes were very well written. I loved how it went into the title sequence being different in every episode. And the first one with Riri rolling around on the ground, and then it's showing IronHeart, which is incredible.
Yeah, that was great.
Yeah, I love that Trevor, her first AI, is mispronouncing her name the whole time. He calls her Riri or something like that. And, just, the white dude talking to a black woman. And I love when she tried to call out against her black professor at MIT when she's like, who ever tried to make you feel small? I tried to bring in other people who look like us. You've been here 4 years, and what have you done? So I love that little flip, because usually we get the, you tried to make me feel small, and, they're right, but I just love little things like that where it's a little good twist in the writing. And then that's one last thing I will say, because I know you mentioned this before about the writing. It's a very thin line between corny and classic, or corny and cool. I don't know what, like, not even cool, corny and more like corny and classic, I guess. Like, Girl, We in Trouble was harsh. I was sitting there like,
yeah.
But like, for my own, like in Jimi Hendrix Purple Haze, there's a panel where one character loads up a gun and clicks the gun to full, and it says all the way up. instead of having an ammo gauge. And I sit there with that one, like,
it keeps you up at night. It's the one thing that keeps you up. It was almost perfect.
Out of that whole book, I'm like, was that wrong? Like, I loved it at the time. I still some days love it, but it's one of those things, and it's like some people will not think about it all, might love it, but when that, we in trouble, it might have been the delivery, it might have been whatever, but it just did not, for me personally, work, but at the same time, I understand. And I feel like that's the thing with this show, and that's what you were talking about, is like, there's a lot of that. There's a lot of like, we black, moments sometimes with the writing. And a lot of times it's subtle, and then other times it's we black, Yeah. And so I feel you.
Yeah.
Yo, what's up, fam? It is I, Tatiana King, and I want y'all to know that I need you to do me a favor. Please share this show. You're listening to us, you're watching us, but you're gatekeeping, and I don't understand why you're doing that. I really need you to share with your friends, share with your mama, share with your cousin, share with everybody, because if you're like me, you love to share the joy, and it's really important that you do that. So please tell people about ForAllNerds. I love you.
Now, what are your shenanigans?
Okay. Let's fucking go. Let's fucking go. All right. Okay. So I feel like, and I think this happens in episode 1. Is this episode 1 where we get the montage of the crew of Hood's crew of Shea Coulee and all?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. So we get this crew that is heavily queer coded in their appearance. Yes. We have Shea Coulee. We have Clown, who's obviously some sort of queer. All of them are queer, right? All of them are queer coded, and we know queer looks like many different things. So it's possible that Clown is not queer. It's possible the twins are not queer. The sisters are the siblings, are not queer. Like, but also in real life, they are modeled after queer imagery, right? Yes. In my opinion, you don't have that number of queer folks together, queer femmes in particular, right? And when we start talking about like, what are you going to do with your money, right? You don't have that number. We're talking about the numbers here, because we know that not just because you're queer doesn't mean that you have a revolutionary politic, right? But that number of queer folks together and embodying and dressing revolutionary, and nobody has a revolutionary politic. Nobody's taking their money to fucking try and dismantle some shit or to build some shit with community or whatever. It just felt like, this is just one example of it in the show, but like, as somebody who loves shenanigans, Marvel, cartoons, I watched, what was that Transformers movie, the last one?
Oh, that was great.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay. It was great, but I'm growing tired of embodying revolutionary language and like jacking our appearance, jacking some of our ideas, and then not including any of the like for real authentic shit that comes with that. It feels like oftentimes it's being written by somebody who's looking at us from the outside and like, oh, this is how quirky and fun they dress. These are some of the cool things that they say. And like the people are jacking our style and writing that into the show without any of the other political stuff that comes along with that. You just don't have that many queer femmes in a room together doing this kind of crime, and nobody is on any type of revolutionary bullshit. Nobody is taking this money and like reappropriating it to do something for community. Everybody's answer, like they took time to ask, what are you going to do with your money? What are you going to do with your money? What are you going to do with your money? And all of their stuff was based on like their individual survival. Not that we're not trying to survive, but one of those motherfuckers would have said, you know what I always wanted to do for community? This is what I wanted to do, and this is how I'm going to do it. At least one of them would have said that shit. And that also goes for like Riri, and like, you know, she's almost shot by that cop before Hood comes to save her or whatever. And like her takeaway is like, somebody almost died, and she's talking about the fucking cop. You almost died. You almost died, bitch. You almost died. It feels like in our art, and this is not just, I felt it heavily with this, but this is not simply a critique of like IronHeart. This is a thing. That's why I mentioned the Transformer thing, because fucking Megatron or whatever his fucking name was right the whole fucking time. It's like, we can't in our art within the colonized world. I think of Queen and Slim all the fucking time. Like even in our fantasies, even in our art, we can't be fucking free. You know what I'm saying? So like this group of queer coded misfits and these black folks and, and hood, and everyone is out for self. There's no real, we're supposed to like, it's implied that like, these black and brown folks, they're on some Robin Hood shit, maybe. I don't know. But nobody is really talking any type of political stuff that makes you feel like, okay, I guess I could see it that way, kind of. It's like we're all supposed to know from the beginning, it's written out or spelled out for us that what they're doing is wrong, and this is wrong, and this is right, and Riri is just there for the money, and these people that they're robbing, like, it's okay to rob them, but there's no real conversation about, like, resistance. Like it's always in these properties, it's always cosplaying resistance. And in our current society, right? And we're always resisting, right? People in our bodies are always resisting and having to resist. And I'm growing very tired of it being used as cosplay. We've seen it done better where they include some of the nuances of like why you might exist in the gray, why it's not always just right, wrong, black, white, legal, illegal. You know what I'm saying? And I felt like this was so like, they're doing the wrong thing, or there's a way to resist. This is not the right way. You know what I'm saying? Like it just was, it felt like Riri was the feds. It felt like they were using limited queer politic or whatever. I'm only asking for one person to say something that they would do for someone besides themselves. That for me was a little bit weird. And I'm just growing tired of that in our media, because a part of the stuff that we're really drawn to are the things that like weave in our identity and existence. And we're at this stage, like maybe we've, as Black people, we've gotten past a certain point of where they're just cosplaying, give me 5 on the black hand side or whatever. Okay, we moved past that. Now you're also cosplaying some of us who have a certain kind of liberatory politic. Write some of that shit in, because we deal with heavy shit, right? Yes. We're dealing with grief, your friends and your fucking dad being murdered by fucking violence or whatever, by gun violence. Mm-hmm. We're dealing with heavy stuff. You could give me a little bit of the realities that some of us are existing in as we fucking resist white supremacist regime and fucking empire, bro. Like, come on.
I do agree with you. And then I also disagree. And I want to hear what Joe has to say about it too. But one, that was my main thing that I wanted to address to you. I never looked at any of them as revolutionary. I get that they are, because you are, they're queer code, especially, the leader of the crew is a criminal who, from my, from these first 3 episodes, seems to be making deals with someone, devilish. Like that, the hood seems to be a devilish item that he has taken and used upon himself. So after that, I'm not looking for this man to do revolutionary acts. You know what I mean? And like we were talking about before we started the show, knowing, me knowing Black and brown men being completely trash in my life, of a certain age, I don't really expect all of them to be good. Then
you're saying all of them, and I very specifically said one.
Yeah,
you know what I'm saying?
You're saying one
out
of
them.
5. And like, okay, first you got to like, why exclude Carter? My man is making those deals. I exclude John because that's his cousin. Boom, right away, that's 2 out the picture who are gonna be, doomed down for whatever. The siblings are, passable, where I'm, not going, they gonna make choices. I'm just saying, and at the same time, it's just 4, 5 of them. But I really want to hear what
that's a lot of people.
It's really not.
That's a lot of people.
It's really not.
And there's Riri, and there's the person who was killed, and they're all queer coded. So let me ask you a question. Ask you a question. If they had them all in Black Panther imagery, if they were all dressed like Panthers, we wouldn't expect one of them to say something, to be on something.
Queer coding and Black Panthers are two different things.
Why?
I don't know. I know a lot of queer coded people who are not revolutionary at all.
Right. Yes. Sure.
Yeah, you know.
I'm not saying. I can't say all
that's
of
like
them.
the same as a Black Panther member. You know what I mean? Like that's a different mentality.
But we're not. But I didn't say a member because we don't.
But if you're dressed in Black Panther outfit, I would consider you a Black Panther member. Yes, that's my first thought.
Well, Beyonce did a whole show where they were dressed as Black Panthers.
I'm talking about a full, real Black Panther outfit, carrying the guns, etc. You know what I mean?
What I'm saying is that this was queer cosplay to me. That's what I'm saying.
But queer cosplay in America and Americans to me is like, you know, you're gonna get the wide spectrum of trash. You know,
you're gonna get a wide spectrum of lots of stuff. And but this is what I'm saying is that queer identity, similarly to any intersection, they come with other stuff. The same way we watch Black people do things in a show and we were like off the rip of them being Black. It's just culturally, it's just certain stuff that like you wouldn't do. One of those Black people would do da 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 da. To me, I'm not saying that we should assume that because they're queer, they're benevolent and on some other stuff. But no, one of them, they didn't know that this guy was making deals with somebody shady. They didn't know what the hood was. They didn't know all of that.
They do. They find out in the second episode that it's very hot, or third episode that is very hot. They've seen him, you know, exhibit powers and things of that nature that they don't know what it is, but they choose to go along with it, which is, you know, like, that is like horror movie level shit. You know, like, oh, I don't know what this nigga's doing, but fuck it, I'm gonna go along with it. Once again, Faustian bargains. Like that's
in this universe, because like they constantly talk about like, oh, there's witches and wizards.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. So people know that this is, you know,
right, but it's
evil,
not. It doesn't mean
shit.
The same thing that it would mean if it was happening in our universe. Like,
yeah, no, but it does. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't mean the same thing. That's why, like, I talk about this, and I go back to Andor all the time. You know what I mean? It's choices people make. These are grown ass people. Like, it's just like with the Andor. There's a lot of people who people sympathize with because of how they look, etc. But they made these choices.
I think that this show made certain things. They played with like, is this black and white or is this gray? And I feel like there was room for more gray. Okay, like we're in this universe, but
I'll give you that. But I'm also saying is that I never even saw it as gray. Like I thought, you know, it was like Riri wants money, you know, like it wasn't like, and dude is doing wild shit like the hood. I wasn't looking at him as like, oh, he's, you know, against the man.
No, that's not, we could do this forever. Yeah. You know what? We'll agree to disagree in this moment. I want to get to Joel.
There are parts that I agree with you, Delicia. Like, I think I am also tired of just kind of like Marvel constantly giving us this like shallow queer representation. And I feel like it continued in IronHeart. Like, again, visually, yes. Like, aesthetically, it felt very queer. Like, I'll even say John was giving me, you know, sometimes he likes the butt. You know, you never know. But I think, like, at the same time, like, something that this just made me think of is, like, the conversation that ForAllNerds has been having about with the general public about, like, Black Lex Luthor. And, like, how, like, can we have like is like a black supervillain represented? And so I'm kind of like, well, why can't like the queer people be like trash people? But also like at the same time, I just kind of felt like they were having fun. Like it just gave me like that was something that I liked seeing. It was like they were just like enjoying themselves. Like while I agree that like it makes sense that at least one queer person in the room would want to do something, like would say something a little bit more revolutionary. I also think
because they're also queer people of color,
but they're young, very young.
That's usually who's at the at the forefront of these movements. But
it's also at the forefront of wilding out.
Joel, go ahead. Sorry,
no, you're good. But at the same time, like I'm also like, why do the queer people have to be the ones to kind of like spur that on? Like, why can't they just exist and be in this space where like, yeah, I just want to like make tons of money and spend it on myself. Like, I also kind of wish there's this space for like, I want queer people to be able to like, you know, I don't always have to think about my community. And I know like it is embedded in us, especially with like queer people of color. Like that's something on our mind of like, okay, how am I like gonna support my peoples? But at the same time, I think it's okay that they can be selfish too. Like they can not care about like, oh, and also I was kind of thinking too when they were sharing about like how they were gonna spend their money. Like if I'm good sitting around a room with like a bunch of my friends and we just talk about what would we do to like $1 million, I'm not immediately gonna go to like, oh, I wanna, you know, build a nonprofit.
No, that's not what I'm saying.
I'm gonna talk some stupid shit. Like,
that's not what I'm saying.
Like, I hear what you're saying, and like again, like it's this constant like shallow representation of queer people and like how you can just tell it's not written by queer people. Like it's not queer people written by queer people. And so there's that I 100% agree with, but I do have this part that's like, yeah, okay. Like I want them to be able to just exist. And like to the point earlier about like how pronouns wasn't a big issue. Like I want like these queer people to be able to just exist in this universe and do whatever the fuck they want and not have to worry about like, you know, trying to be an advocate, trying to like be in these streets, like bringing the revolution to people.
I agree with that. I think the piece of me that disagrees with that, right? Like, I agree with that. The piece of me that challenges the idea of like, why can't they all just enjoy their money and spend frivolously, as the hood said? The piece of me that resists that a little bit is that in our quest in these stories to give the villain more depth and nuance or whatever, we usually, a lot of times, these stories will play in the gray. And I'm talking about Black people, I'm talking about people of color, and I'm talking about queer people, and I'm talking about, you know, everything in between, right? They'll frequently leverage our image, but in the gray, they will intentionally, I think, not include our politic. So everything else can be leveraged in the gray, right? So poor versus rich, right? So it's like we can play with all these other things, and then we're going to still intentionally avoid the politics that come along with the imagery that we're using because for whatever reason, this is what we're using or whatever. So I agree with you. I don't think that the burden of like doing more should be on queer folks, should be on Black folks, should be on people of color. I don't think that our shows even should be like, oh, we have to be thinking higher and more, whatever.
I feel you, you know, but okay, one, you're like, I think you're like looking at this show and you're looking at it not in a vacuum, but in like the context of everything else, but you're also ignoring the context of what this show has to exist in. And that's first of all the Marvel system, right? And the Marvel system under, you know, the current regime we're under is going to be a very much more conservative. You're not going to find, you know, like that's why I've been telling you for the last, and everyone in the world about Andor for the last 10 years, because it's to be the last time you're ever going to see some shit like that. You know, like you're not going to get that type of stuff.
Yeah, that's okay, but I'm not going to shut up about it. I know you're not saying shut up.
I'm not saying shut up, but I'm like, like you said, we'll be here all night. And that's like, you have to give the show credit for the other things that it is doing very well. Because I want to give credit to Shanaka Hodge because they are doing a fantastic job with this show. I also want to say, like what Joel said, because we've had this debate on ForAllNerds for a long time. It's like you have to allow certain people to be the villain or to be the antagonist just because they look like us or look like someone we know, that they can't represent evil or they can't represent just bad choices.
Well, that's not what I'm saying. That's a conflation. Yeah, that's not what I'm not saying they shouldn't. I'm not saying
you are saying that. Okay. But what I'm saying is this is the conflation people will make from what you're saying. And it's like people have already made that conflation in our comments. People have told us that no, they can't be the villain. You know, we don't want a Black Lex Luthor is what people have said. Because no, you know, Lex Luthor is villainous. He's a billionaire. He's white. You know, a Black dude wouldn't do all that.
Right. But well, I'm not a basic bitch. That's not what I'm saying. Yeah, what I'm saying, okay, let me finish, what I'm calling for is nuance. I'm just calling for nuance. Okay.
I know you are. That's okay. Okay. We all know you are. That you got to let me finish. I'm not saying you're not calling for nuance. I'm just saying that this show is doing a lot in nuance. And maybe, see, the thing is like, I don't think it was supposed to be nuanced with them. I don't think it's supposed to be black and white either, but I just think that like the main character that you like, it's two people. It's Riri and Dude. This show does not have the time to flesh out, like the thugs, who they basically are. Giving them this much screen time and this much credit
thugs. Just call them niggas. No, I'm just teasing.
Yeah, it's a credit to the show that they've gotten this much screen time because they're basically the henchmen. You know what I mean? They're not meant to be any more than that. The main conflict is between the antagonist, the Hood, and the protagonist, IronHeart. And they're both, like I was talking about on this whole Faustian thing, where they're both falling victim to it. And I think that's a very interesting thing that the show is doing, is that, this conflict between those two. The rest of them are just, side characters pretty much. Like, at least in the, terms of the show. And that's what I'm saying. I think we got to give credit to what it is doing. Like, in the time it has to with like Natalie and with Riri.
Well, we gave that credit at the top, and then we asked for my shenanigans, and those are my shenanigans. And I talked about it in a larger context. Like I said, it's not just this show.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. Like, but this show is like we're talking about this show tonight, and it's like this show is catching the vapors for like 50 years of television. Yeah. And
I mean, that's the case with everything that gets reviewed. Like, it gets to be a part of it. But these were the intersections where I felt like what I would have liked to see in this show is like, as we bake in nuance to make a little bit of room for resistance, since we are cosplaying resistance. That's all I'm saying. And that's all I'm saying.
I think maybe that's something that they wanted to talk about more, but might have gotten cut, etc. Like, the idea, because to me, the Hood is just selling. He is literally, like you're saying, cosplaying resistance. It's not that the show is cosplaying resistance. I think the Hood is doing that. Like, the Hood is literally, like, even John, right? That's the cousin. He walks up to her and is like, I couldn't work for a traditional company. That's his line. Not, I need to break down the system. It's, I need to get bread, but I can't get it this way. That's what I'm saying. The Hood it's like, to me, that was his selling point. He's like one of them dudes who's like, yeah, I want to, he's the, the worst of the Black Panthers, the ones who wanted to, just make some money instead of tearing down the system.
Since you brought up the worst of the Black Panthers, this is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
When these shows leverage our imagery, right? Panthers or imagery of resistance, what they frequently and almost exclusively show is the worst. That's all that I'm saying.
I don't think that I don't think this show is even showing resistance, other than the fact that it's queer people. And I get you, one of them should be resistance, but shit, they call it the 4 worst, All right. What? I'm sorry. That nigga recruited well.
The clear barrel.
My man would no. I mean, my man looked for the worst, because it's also the people who are gonna go along with his fucking devilish schemes. That's
no, they didn't know. Okay, I don't want to.
The nigga is
we
fucking
disagree.
We
disagree.
It's the Marvel universe. If I don't know why you shoot beams out your eyes, I'm not going along with you. Because eventually those beams out your eyes is coming from me.
He just had a hood. That's it. He just had a hood.
They all known that he's been doing wild shit. They've all said that. They're all like, yo, I don't know exactly what's up with Dude.
Okay.
But I'm here for this bread.
Okay.
Faustian agreements, bargains.
Okay.
Like, choices are made. Man, you need to finish Andor, because you over here sympathizing with Cyril. You're like, oh, he didn't know everything that was going on.
No.
I think we pretty much covered, what we liked and didn't dislike about these 3 episodes. So,
you know what I liked? I liked, and this was big episode 3 energy. I liked seeing the suit fly itself. I liked that a lot while she went and did something else. That was cool. Like how it felt like more Riri, more IronHeart, more suit. I liked seeing them move kind of separate. That was cool.
I really liked it, just the whole armor ups that we're getting, because I know people have been missing that in Marvel. Like, they're tired of everybody's helmets just materializing on their heads. And so I think that, it's funny, because a lot of the things that people are mad at, like that, the real haters of this show, the irrational haters of this show, there's a lot of things that they're really going to appreciate, because these are the things that they've been complaining about in general, not just with this show, but they'll really appreciate, the whole, because the armor feels clunky, it feels heavy, it feels real physical. I really like that. That's something else I want to shout out, is the effects and just the action in general. Like, I really did not expect the action to be this good on this show, and it's really solid. Like, the fights are really well done. The blood siblings, when they're introduced, and those shots of them fucking the dudes up in the mansion, is like, you feel that shit. Yeah.
And when Riri's like out of her suit, like she does feel vulnerable. Like when what's his name?
John, when he's barking on her. Yeah.
John was like coming for her, like
he
was putting up something, but she didn't have exactly all the hands to be able to take him on. And he got cut up a few times. And like you really see, like, she's gonna try her best, but that suit is what's protecting her.
How did y'all feel about her basically leaving him to die?
Yeah, it did seem like she could just grab him. Okay, between Natalie, the AI, and Riri, y'all couldn't be like, you was just fighting. You like grab him.
That was like, it felt like a in the moment fight or flight. She's also like, she was losing oxygen because she couldn't breathe.
Right.
Her mind might have not been completely focused on like everything going on. She's just like, I'm trying to get out and make sure I get out alive. So I did kind of feel like, I want to give her a little grace that there is a lot going on. My first thought isn't always, let me go save the man that just tried to kill me. So
I don't know. She was worried about that cop. She was very concerned. She was very worried that somebody almost died. It was the cop was almost killed. Oh my God. She was very worried. Meanwhile, somebody who was like a part of your little crew, who
he was also just trying to kill her.
He was just trying to kill her, but like
seconds before.
Yes, but like, what was she doing? She was not where she was supposed to be. I'm just saying, I don't know. It seemed like they could have just grabbed him. I don't know.
I really felt like she could have just grabbed him, but I'm also there with Joel, where it's that fight or flight, and she ain't got no breath, and the suit and Natalie are not concerned with dude. No. Straight up and down. They're like, whatever be, you made that bed.
Yeah. No, that part
he wasn't trying to save everybody else. Riri went, go get that.
She had to convince her to go, for real. So no, suit's like, we out. That was harsh though. I felt for my man when he was like, "Where's John? Where's John?" I was like, "Ooh, sorry, John." About that.
Was a lot. They just that's the other thing. They just let the door close behind them. It's too much. It was a murder. It's too much.
I mean, it was straight up a murder. Like, I might have been justifiable homicide, but it was definitely homicide. Because
also,
straight
like,
up.
Couldn't she have like blasted through the roof and then
easily
like. She blasted through the roof to save everybody else. She like saw me walk out the door. Then
6 million ways to die, 6 million ways to save this man, and she chose none of them.
That was wild. That was wild to me.
No, that's like that, and that's the thing. Like, that's why I want to give the show credit, because it is like, it feels like she's following in the footsteps. Like, I go back to that line again when he's like, "You come in here with that iron energy." Like, that is who she is. She's following in the footsteps of Tony, and Tony was a murderer. Like, straight him down. He murdered so many people in that first Iron Man movie.
I don't know. That feels like, I don't like that conflation, but all right.
I mean,
all right. She's just like her daddy.
No, I don't mean
the white
like
man.
That. Like,
she's just like her white daddy.
But look, I'd have. Down the line, it's been, I don't know. I think we did this before, and I can't remember, but there were not one Avenger, I think, that I couldn't count as a war criminal at some point.
Right. Yes.
Yeah. Like, so, white, black, down the line. I can't remember. T'Challa did some shit, didn't he? I can't remember. Rest in peace.
Yeah, I don't know. She hasn't seen that much battle yet. She hasn't, like, why would she be so, aside from her, like, goal?
Because she is. She's like, she doesn't, it's that Reed Richards, Tony Stark thing where it's like, when you're that smart, you like, or people like this. I know people too smart for their own goddamn good. And I don't know super geniuses, and like, when you get to that super genius level, the world looks different to you.
I don't want to spend 30 minutes talking about why I think that that's not the case, or like, I feel like that's a.
But
that
you also
feels...
have to, that is her character. Like that, whether you feel like that's not the case or not, like Reed Richards and Tony, I mean, all three of them have shown this in the comments in their history to not always make the right choices.
Yeah, but the way that you... Okay, all right. I don't want to spend a lot of time on this.
Like Joel said it, like I haven't read her comments, but I know that's Reed's, whole thing.
I think that there's a difference between being like too smart for your own good and like sacrificing people's lives. I think that she's still a growing person.
Yeah.
A lot of the mistakes that she makes in this series are because she's 19, 20 years old or whatever, trying to figure a lot of shit out, grieving, and just like anybody at that stage of life, especially if you are no longer like in, doing the traditional path of like you graduate high school and then you go to college or whatever, like it's a period of like figuring shit out. And so I feel like putting on these concepts that white people have about what it means to be smart and driven or whatever, and like it just feels like it's too soon. Like she might be singular in her focus of like building her machine and like she built it because she could and like doing these things because she can and why not or whatever. It feels like
that it felt might very white, man.
What, to just do it because she can do it?
Like that is, that's my biggest problem with a lot of scientists, and I usually mean white male scientists when they're just like, I did it because I could. That is right, the people who do this AI shit right now.
Yeah, but she built a suit. It's not where it does matter. It does matter what the could is. It matters what the could is, and it matters what's done with it, I think.
You build a weapon of war.
She said that like she built it because she could, but I kind of felt like she said that because she didn't really want to say like a lot of the real motive. Like she taught, like I felt like she built the suit as like a response to what happened to Natalie and her stepdad. And like, yes, the pathway was let me build an Iron Man suit because it's like all the rave right now. But at the same time, like there was a part, I don't remember which episode, but there was a part where she mentioned like how this will like revolutionize like first responders and like only someone could have gotten there on time. Like her stepdad and Natalie would have made it. And so like, yeah, she's saying like I did it because I could, but like a lot of the drive of her technology is because of what happened to Natalie and her stepdad. And like she does all these technological things and is like obsessed with science, one because she like inherited that from her stepdad and the love of like, tinkering and breaking things apart. But like a big part is also she saw how technology could have helped her and like how it could have like saved lives. And so that's what's driving her to do it, because she feels that guilt of like, I couldn't save my stepdad and Natalie's life. And so let me do the thing so that it can save somebody's life.
And I agree with both of you. I think that's it. And I also think it's because she's young and immature and grieving and dealing with a lot of different things. And I'm not saying that it's like she's following the path of the white man. I'm just saying that she does say, I did it because I could. And the whole, I'm doing this because I know that this will help first responders, et cetera. It's the same thing that Tony said. I'm going to build a suit of armor around the world. It's like, they do these things, but that goes back to Tony in the comments. Like he makes the suits and then it falls into the wrong hands and someone does bad with it. It's, Ironmonger. It's the same thing. And it's like, that's where she is failing, and we'll see where it goes, but she's young and, all the other things we just said, but she's making some of these same choices and saying some of these same things. I don't feel like she's saying it in the same way that a white dude says it when she's like, I did it because I could. But I also feel like it's not taking into account what could happen, by doing these type of things. And that's what I think the show is going to get into, and we'll see in the next few episodes as well.
Yes. I also just want to point out that Tony Stark not making a suit compared to like the choice for Tony to decide, okay, I'm going to pack it up and not make the suit and use my, time and money for good for something else.
Yeah.
Is
ain't
different.
The choice she can make.
Right. Yes. It's a very
she says it.
different.
She says it from the very jump. Yeah.
Right.
She said, and that's what I said this earlier. That's what I said, is that she's forced to make a suit because that's the only way the white world will recognize her, is because she, she's like, no one cares about me if I go and do all this other stuff I could do. But if I make the suit, everyone pays attention. So,
well, white people pay attention. If we're talking about the specific thing,
the money pays attention.
Sure,
yeah,
right. Yeah,
the money pays attention. Yes, yes.
We're saying do you want to fight? Do you want to go, bro? Do you want to fucking go?
I'm not necessarily. I like. Do you want to go? Time, I'm never disagreeing with you. I'm just also telling you, like, it's it's also the reality of certain. If like, that's what I always go back to real estate. In 6 episodes and 38 minutes per. They did not get mad shit with this. Because credits is like 8-9 minutes of the show. Right. These joints is half-hour episodes for the most part, and that's what Marvel gave them, and they did a lot in that time. Like I'm giving them some love. I get it. They can't do everything, and then they're also dealing with the fucking current shit where it's like they're not gonna say anything. But for what they are doing, I'm giving them a lot. I'm really loving this show. Any last words before we're out of here?
I did want to say, like, the show is teaching us don't uplift white men. Like they don't need that support. They don't need that kind of like don't give them nothing. Don't give them your time because they'll betray you. They'll turn.
Where's the white men?
That boy was in it. He's in the first 3 episodes.
Alden?
Bob or whatever the heck that boy's name is.
Oh no, it's revealed. Obadiah Stane's son. Yeah. We didn't really.
I found his existence to be very annoying.
Wow.
Yeah, I did.
I love him. Okay. I that was like a big moment for me. I just love any connection to Obadiah, and I thought that was really dope how they brought that in. I didn't think it was like a heavy-handed moment.
Yeah, I was relieved when I was like, oh, that's who he is. But like the lead up to that and like him, learning how to stand up for himself because of his encounter with Riri, that also kind of was like, okay.
Yeah, I get you.
It was, I just didn't. And listen, the reality is white people meet us every day and are like, wow, and learn something. So that's a reality. But also I just didn't feel like I needed that to be, to be a part of this. But that's not, I'm not saying that, I don't want to say. So it's not like it's a bad thing. But for me, yes, I did find his existence annoying. And the amount of time we spent with that white woman's dog pooping on his lawn was like, okay, we just
like a minute.
We spent too much time. We just spent too much time with him. I feel like
they could have been talking about revolution in that minute.
No. I just think we spent a little bit too much time with him in that way. I liked him as a benefactor, as somebody who could fund what she's trying to do. But the other stuff was like, oh my gosh, but I don't. Hey, everybody did a great job. It was great. Best show I ever saw. Okay,
I never said that.
It was perfect.
We only have seen. We're only talking about the first 3 episodes.
And it's the best 3 episodes of a series I've ever seen in my life. Okay?
Watch it now. Rewatch.
Oh, my God. All right. Well, please, Jay, let the internet know where they can find you at.
Yes, you can find me anywhere on social at T with QJ, TEA with QJ, or on my personal account at Genesia F. Anywhere at Genesia F. And listen to Tea with Queen and J podcast. That's where I be.
Word up. And Joel?
You can find me in the ForAllNerds account and make sure that you follow us on all platforms. So Blue Sky, TikTok, Instagram, YouTube, subscribe. If you want to interact with me, you can interact with me through there.
Word. All right. Staying on the low. And I'm DJ Ben Amin. Of course, you can follow me, follow DJ Ben Amin on all platforms. Also, if you can read this on my computer, you can follow biddjenergy.com. That's my website, biddjenergy.com, where I'm releasing a lot of music right now. So go over there and check it out. I just released a new song last week, and there'll probably be another one by the time you hear this. So go ahead, leave your email and get some free music. And of course, head over to ForAllNerds.com, where if you leave your email over there, you'll get a discount and you can grab some of this illustrious merch like this Sith Happens shirt popping off right now over there on ForAllNerds.com. So make sure you head over there and get some of that good stuff. Other than that, like Joel said, make sure you follow us on all the different socials, ForAllNerds. Make sure you're liking and subscribing us on YouTube. It really means the world. All the subscriptions. On the next episode of ForAllNerds, I'll name all the latest subscribers and all that. So make sure you do. Of course, if you're really one of the fam, you can head over to patreon.com/ForAllNerds and contribute financially over there. Every dollar helps. So, if you're feeling froggy, go over ahead, jump over there, leave some dollars. Thank you very much. Get your name on the wall. We still don't even have a name for our Wall of Fame, but, you can get your name on the Wall of Fame. Thank you.
Hey, what's up, internets and the fam? This is Tatiana King for ForAllNerds, and I want to thank you so much for listening and watching the ForAllNerds. Make sure you like and subscribe to us only on YouTube.
For All Nerds Show is a member of the Loudspeakers Network, where we always say rest in peace to our founder, Combat Jack.
For All Nerds Show is powered by our listeners. Everything we do, from our podcasts, live events, our website, are all independently funded. Please continue to support us through our Patreon page at patreon.com/ForAllNerds.